In the dusty heart of Jebu Market, Angela did what no one else dared. While others mocked him, she sat beside the shoemaker, laughed with him, fed him, and defended his dignity. Her family called it shame. Her stepmother raged. Her father thundered, "No daughter of mine will marry dust." Yet Angela's heart whispered a truth they could not see. Sometimes love hides in rags, and the man bent in dust may rise a king. For love, once chosen, cannot be silenced. Before we journey deeper into Angela's struggle and David's hidden truth, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? At Prestige Tales Africa, we bring you Nollywood-style folktales where love, betrayal, pride, and destiny collide. If you cherish powerful African stories that blend wealth and poverty, tradition and justice, then don't just watch, be part of the family. Like, share, and subscribe, because the next unforgettable story is already unfolding, and you won't want to miss it. The sound of hammering echoed along the dusty roadside of Jebu, each strike a dull rhythm against leather. The city was alive with noise. Boda-bodas honked impatiently, vendors shouted the prices of roasted corn, and children darted through puddles left by yesterday's rain. Dust rose with every passing bus, clinging to the sweat-slick skin of pedestrians. Amid this chaos, one figure sat apart, bent over a worn wooden stool. David Okoye, the man who owned half the skyline of Jebu, disguised as nothing more than a shoemaker in rags. Once upon a time, in Jebu, there lived David Okoye. People thought he had everything: hotels gleaming with marble lobbies, estates guarded by iron gates, a name that made investors bow. They saw the suits, the wristwatch, the convoys. They didn't know he was empty. They didn't know the ache that gnawed at his chest whenever women smiled at him, their eyes not on his face but on his wealth. He had tasted luxury but not love. And so, David abandoned the glass towers and slipped into the dust. He wore a ragged grey shirt, its sleeves rolled and fraying, brown trousers patched at the knees, and cracked sandals that bit into his heels. His broad shoulders hunched to disguise their strength. His neatly trimmed beard was smudged with dirt, his face streaked as though poverty had carved its mark upon him. Beside him, laid out on a splintered wooden plank, were the tools of his chosen disguise: a shoemaker's hammer, worn awl, coils of thick thread, and leather scraps that bore the smell of sweat and dust. "Shoemaker, fix my slippers," a woman barked as she flung a broken strap at his feet. Her eyes rolled with disdain as she clicked her tongue, muttering to her friend, "Look at him, sweating in rags. Imagine his life." They laughed, their lace wrappers brushing past his knees, the sequins catching sunlight while his own clothes absorbed heat and humiliation. David bowed his head, silent. His hand gripped the hammer, and he began to work. Tap, tap, tap. Each blow was steady, calm. Inside him, pride screamed, but he buried it, whispering to himself, "If I can endure their laughter, I may yet find a woman whose love is true." From a nearby shop, roasted corn smoke curled into the air, mingling with the acrid bite of exhaust fumes. The scent clung to David as he worked, searing into his memory. This was no place of riches, but of survival. Boda-bodas zoomed past, splattering mud onto his trousers, but he did not flinch. Behind him, peeling paint on shop signs faded under the sun, declaring businesses that barely survived, "God's time is best electronics, Mama Afima's cold drinks." Children gathered around sometimes, mocking him. "Shoemaker, shoemaker," they sang, clapping their hands, their voices cruel in their innocence. One boy darted close, daring to grab his hammer. David's amber eyes flashed beneath his brow, sharp and commanding, and the boy froze before retreating into giggles. Even in rags, his presence carried an unspoken weight. But it was not only children who noticed him. Traders whispered, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Why was a man with such stature and a voice too rich for poverty sitting here among them? Some dismissed him, others jeered. Yet none looked closer. None dared imagine the truth, that a billionaire was among them, humbling himself to the dust for the sake of love. That evening, as the sun dipped low and Jebu's sky turned molten gold, David paused, wiping his brow with the back of his arm. His stomach growled. The coins in his wooden bowl rattled, barely enough for a meal. He glanced at the busy crowd, women carrying raffia baskets stacked with tomatoes, Men in kaftans bargaining fiercely for pepper, teenagers with headphones swaying to distant beats. Each had a place, a life. He was the only one living a lie. "Oh, Concho," a voice jeered, a mocking nickname the traders had given him. "Even your hammer is tired. Better marry it, since no woman will marry you." Laughter roared from a group of men by the palm wine stand. One spat toward his stall. David inhaled, slow. His jaw tightened, but he bent his head again to the broken shoe before him. Every insult, every humiliation, was another stone laid on the road to his destiny. He told himself, this is the price. This is the fire that will test her heart. And yet, under the heavy weight of mockery, loneliness gnawed at him. For all his riches, for all the power his name commanded, here on the roadside, he was unseen. No one looked into his eyes with love. No one believed in him without measure. And as the hammer struck leather one final time that evening, a truth as bitter as cola lodged in his chest. If he died there in rags, the world would step over his body without pause. The city of Jebu carried on around him, a symphony of life, laughter, horns, quarrels, music leaking from radios. And in the middle of it, a shoemaker worked by lamplight, unknown to the crowd. A billionaire hidden in plain sight, waiting for love to find him. And that was only the beginning. The marketplace of Jebu pulsed like a living heart, each beat a burst of color, smell, and noise. Stalls sprawled across the square in chaotic rows, their raffia baskets stacked high with peppers, yams, and onions that glistened with morning dew. Women in Ankara wrappers bargained fiercely, their voices rising above the clang of metal scales and the cries of hawkers balancing trays of groundnuts on their heads. The air was thick with a mingled sense of dried fish, palm oil, and dust, an atmosphere that wrapped around anyone who stepped into its embrace. David sat by his shoemaker's stall at the edge of this chaos, hammering rhythmically against cracked leather. The mockery from the day before still echoed in his mind, but his face betrayed nothing. His shoulders were steady, his beard glistened faintly with sweat, and his hands moved with patience, threading needle through leather with the precision of a craftsman. It was here, among the noise and gossip, that fate drew her to him. Angela. She slipped through the crowd with the grace of one who did not belong to the noise yet carried its essence in her every step. Her golden-brown skin glowed softly under the sun, and her oval face bore an expression of quiet determination. She carried a raffia basket lightly in one hand, filled with tomatoes and okra. Her simple yellow cotton dress brushed against her ankles, tied with a sash that swayed as she walked. Strands of her braided hair, tied back into a puff, caught the light like threads of midnight woven with the sun. Unlike others, her eyes did not slide past the shoemaker as though he were invisible. They lingered. They softened. Where others saw rags and dust, Angela saw something else. A man bent in humility, hammer steady, lips pressed in silence, enduring what others would have spat against. Her steps slowed. David looked up, his gaze meeting hers for the first time. For a heartbeat, the world fell quiet. The bargaining voices seemed to dim, the dried fish smell dulled, the megaphone of a hawker crackled into silence. Only the amber of his eyes and the warmth in hers existed. "Barber Shoemaker," she said gently, her voice carrying not mockery but kindness. "You have worked long. Will you not eat?" From her basket, she pulled a small piece of roasted yam wrapped in plantain leaf. She placed it on the wooden plank beside his tools. The simple act stunned him. All day he had endured ridicule, but no hand had stretched kindness. Now, before the entire market, this woman did what no one dared. David's throat tightened. His voice, when it came, was low. "Why give me your food? You do not even know me." Angela smiled softly. "Because hunger makes no man less human, and work makes no man less worthy." The traders around snickered. "Angela, the shoemaker's friend," one mocked. "She has reduced herself to sharing food with dust." Another woman hissed, "Better be careful, tomorrow you may join him in rags." Laughter rippled through the crowd. But Angela did not turn. She sat on the rough wooden stool beside his stall, her basket by her feet. The broken slipper she wore had loosened, its strap threatening to tear. When it finally snapped, she sighed, lifting it in her hand. Before she could speak, David reached for it, his voice steady. "Let me fix it. A good heart is worth more than money. For you, I will do it free." He bent low, threading his needle, his hammer striking gently. Angela watched him, not with pity but with admiration. His brow furrowed in concentration, his large hands moving delicately over the fragile strap. For the first time, she saw dignity in the dust, beauty in the sweat of labor. Her lips curved upward, not in laughter but in quiet respect. As he worked, she studied him. The way his muscles flexed beneath his ragged shirt, the way his amber eyes never wavered, the patience in every movement. It was as though the shoemaker's hammer beat not only against leather but against her heart. David handed back the slipper, mended and whole. "It will last you longer now," he said. Angela slipped it on, her gaze still fixed on him. "And so will this moment," she whispered. But the market was not blind. Gossip spread like wildfire. Traders whispered, women nudged each other, mocking smiles grew sharper. "Angela has fallen for a shoemaker," one shouted. "Better tell her father, maybe he will marry her off to beggars too," another cackled. The ridicule rose, yet Angela did not move. She lifted her chin, her soft eyes defiant. And David, for the first time in weeks, felt the weight on his chest lighten. Her kindness had carved a space in the dust, a space where dignity could live, where love might bloom. That day marked the beginning. Amid the raffia baskets, the gossiping women, and the smell of dried fish, two hearts met not in wealth or splendor, but in humility and kindness. And while the world mocked them, they sat together, laughing softly amid the chaos, unaware that the storm of betrayal and conflict was already gathering at their door. The compound of Chief Okoro sat like a scar on the edge of Jebu, proud walls cracked with age, its iron gate half-hanging, its courtyard filled with restless chickens pecking at grains tossed on the dust. The faint smell of firewood smoke drifted from clay pots lined against the kitchen wall. Neighbors leaned over their fences, eager eyes and sharper tongues ready to catch whispers of scandal. Inside, tension simmered like pepper soup left too long on the fire. Angela sat quietly on a low wooden stool, the same raffia basket from the market now empty at her feet. Her soft eyes carried both calm and worry, but her back was straight, her dignity intact. She thought of David's hands, steady on her broken slipper, and her heart swelled with admiration. Yet, in this compound, admiration was a dangerous flame. Her stepmother, Stella, burst through the doorway, sequined lace gown shimmering unnaturally bright under the morning sun. She clutched a feathered hand fan, waving it like a weapon. Her voice cracked like thunder. "Angela, so it is true? You sit with a shoemaker in the market? You feed him, you laugh with him, you disgrace this house." Angela lifted her chin, voice calm. "Mama Stella, I only gave kindness where others gave mockery. Is that shameful?" Stella sneered, her jewel tilting with the sharpness of her movement. "Kindness? Is that what you call lowering yourself to a man who kneels in dust? My daughter will not marry poverty. Not while I breathe." From the inner room, Martha, Angela's stepsister, appeared. She was draped in a tight Ankara dress with bold floral prints, her lips painted glossy red. She leaned against the doorframe, eyes gleaming with mischief. "Sister Angela," she purred, "if you don't want him, let me. A man who fixes shoes may yet fix my heart. At least he bends before women." The words stung like a slap. Angela's breath caught, but she steadied herself. Before she could answer, the deep voice of her father cut through the courtyard. Chief Okoro emerged in his white embroidered kaftan, his dark blue cap tilted slightly. His cane struck the ground with every step, echoing like a gavel. His mustache bristled with fury, and his piercing eyes glared at Angela as though she were a stranger. "No daughter of mine will marry a beggar," he thundered. "Angela, have you lost your senses? You disgrace my name. You spit on this house. I built respect with my sweat, and you choose a man with dust under his nails." Angela rose slowly, her slim frame trembling but her voice steady. "Papa, he is not what you think. He is kind. He is humble. A man's worth is not in his clothes but in his heart. Her words hung in the air, fragile yet unbroken. The courtyard erupted. Neighbors who had been pretending to pound yam or stir pots leaned closer, whispering fiercely. She dares answer back to her father. Shoemaker's curse, she will drag them all down. Stella fanned herself dramatically, eyes rolling heavenward. Listen to this child. Tomorrow she will say love fills the stomach. Does love buy lace? Does love drive SUVs? Martha laughed cruelly. Angela, you are welcome to your shoemaker. But when he cannot pay bride price, don't come crying. Her eyes flickered, envy thinly veiled. Or perhaps, I will marry him first. Chief Okoro struck his cane hard against the ground. Enough. If you shame me again, I will cast you out of this house. Better you remain unmarried forever than bring ruin with a beggar's name. Angela's lips trembled, but she swallowed her tears. She whispered, even if the world rejects him, I will not. Stella gasped as though burned, clutching her chest. Did you hear her, Chief? She defies you openly. The father's eyes narrowed. His hand shook around the cane. Then hear me clearly, Angela. From this day, if you continue with this shoemaker, you are no longer my daughter. My house is not for rebels. My bloodline is not for disgrace. The courtyard fell silent, broken only by the cluck of chickens and the hiss of boiling stew from the kitchen. Angela stood alone in the center, framed by firewood smoke and judgmental eyes. Her heart ached, but her gaze did not waver. From that moment, the compound of Chief Okoro became a battlefield. Stella whispered lies into his ears, Martha plotted with restless desire, and neighbors fanned the flames with gossip. Angela's kindness at the market had sparked not admiration, but war. Yet deep within her, the image of David's humble hands, the shoemaker's hammer rising and falling with quiet dignity, burned brighter than fear. She knew the storm was only beginning. The days after Angela's defiance in her father's courtyard unfolded like a storm cloud refusing to leave the sky. The compound buzzed with tension. Every time she fetched water from the community well or went to the market, whispers trailed her steps like shadows. Women bent over raffia baskets of tomatoes would pause, murmuring, "That is her, the one who feeds the shoemaker." Teenagers giggled cruelly, their eyes darting toward her before breaking into mocking songs. Angela bore it silently. Her chin remained high, but inside her chest her heart trembled. Yet she could not deny the quiet warmth that glowed each time her thoughts strayed to David, the shoemaker with amber eyes who endured insult after insult with a patience that made him seem carved from stone. 2 days later, Angela returned to the market for tomatoes. She found him sitting at his wooden plank, mending a sandal. His hammer rose and fell with its steady tap, tap, tap. Unlike the others, she did not pass quickly. She slowed. "Good morning," she said softly. David looked up, his eyes meeting hers. For a moment, the chaos of the market faded, the bargaining shouts, the pounding drums, the smell of smoked fish. He nodded once. "Good morning, madam." Her lips curved. "You remembered me." "I do not forget kindness," he replied, his voice low, steady. She placed a tomato basket near her feet and sat on the edge of his stool. For a long moment, she watched his hands, broad, scarred, yet delicate as they threaded needle through leather. "Shoemaker's work looks simple," she said finally, "but it is not." He smiled faintly. "Simple work feeds the hungry as well as complex work. What matters is the heart behind it." Angela felt something stir inside her, not love yet, but respect. The days that followed wove their bond tighter. Once, as she struggled with her raffia basket heavy with vegetables, David stood silently, then lifted it onto his own broad shoulder. She gasped. "It is not your burden," he replied quietly, "but your hands are not made for pain alone." Another day, when a sudden rainstorm pelted the roadside, she sought shelter under a torn umbrella. David, seeing her shiver, shifted his own cracked canopy above her head so that she remained dry while his own shoulders bore the downpour. She glanced at him in surprise. His beard dripped with water, his shirt clung to his muscular frame, yet he smiled faintly. "Why?" she whispered. "Because dignity is not lost in rags," he answered. These were small things, but they seared themselves into Angela's heart. One evening, as twilight painted the sky, she lingered at his stall long after others had left. The air was cool, and roasted yam smoke mingled with the earthy scent of rain. She watched him polish a newly mended shoe until it gleamed. "Why do you work so hard?" she asked. He paused, his amber eyes lifting to the horizon. "Because a man must build something greater than himself. These hands," he spread his scarred palms, "they are not made only for dust. One day, I will build a place where no child goes barefoot, where no woman's laughter is silenced by hunger. That is what I dream." Angela's breath caught. It was the first time he had revealed more than silence. His voice carried weight, not of pride, but of vision. She felt her admiration deepen, roots sinking into soil she had not known existed. By the third week, Angela realized she sought excuses to pass his stall. Sometimes she bought only one tomato, sometimes a small bundle of okra. Each time, she lingered. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they sat in silence, watching the chaos of Jebu swirl past them. She began to learn the rhythm of his silence, when it meant pain, when it meant pride, when it meant longing. He, in turn, began to watch her with a softness he did not show the world. The bond was not yet declared as love, but it had become undeniable. But the market was not blind. Traders began to whisper more loudly now. "Angela spends too much time with the shoemaker," one muttered. "Her beauty is wasted." Another hissed, "She feeds him. Soon she will marry him." The gossip crept into the compound like poison smoke. Stella heard it first from a neighbor at the well. Martha overheard it while buying groundnuts. Soon the house was aflame with anger. One evening, Stella confronted her in the courtyard, her sequined gown shimmering like fire in the lamplight. "You sit with him again," she thundered. "You disgrace this family. Do you not see? Already the neighbors laugh. Already your father's name is mocked." Angela bowed her head but did not yield. "Mama Stella, I see a man with dignity. Is that shameful?" Stella hissed. "You are bewitched. No daughter of mine will marry dust. We will find you a husband worthy of this house." Her words foreshadowed the storm to come. Martha's envy grew sharper by the day. She mocked Angela cruelly. "Your shoemaker looks at you as if you are a queen. But let us see, will he pay bride price with old sandals? Will he dress you in leather scraps?" She laughed, but her eyes gleamed with hunger. One night, she whispered to Stella, "If Angela refuses him, give him to me. I will not be ashamed." Her words planted deeper poison. Meanwhile, Chief Okoro felt the weight of shame heavier than ever. Neighbors who once bowed to him now smirked when he passed. Men muttered in taverns, "The mighty chief, whose daughter dines with shoemakers." One night, after hearing more whispers, he struck his cane against the ground. "I will not have my name dragged into dung. She will marry, and she will marry now." In her small room, Angela wept quietly, clutching her wrapper. Yet her spirit did not break. She remembered David's words, his dream of building something greater than himself. She whispered into the darkness, "They may strip me of pride, but they cannot strip me of choice. I saw his heart, and I will not forget." Thus the pieces were in place. Gossip had become wildfire. Stella plotted, Martha fanned flames, Chief Okoro's pride cracked. And Angela, though frightened, clung to the bond that had grown from dust. The morning of Angela's humiliation dawned heavy, the sky low and grey, as though even the heavens hesitated to shine on her sorrow. In the cracked courtyard of Chief Okoro's compound, A canopy had been raised hastily, its fabric sagging from one corner, tied to crooked wooden poles. Plastic chairs were scattered in rows, neighbors already trickling in, eager to feast on scandal. The smell of firewood smoke mixed with roasted goat meat drifted into the air, while gossip flowed faster than palm wine. Angela sat silently in a borrowed pale green lace gown. The embroidery was dull, its head tie clumsily knotted by a cousin. Her hands lay clenched in her lap, wrists bare, neck unadorned, stripped of dignity and decoration. Every detail screamed not of celebration but of defeat. The raffia baskets piled with food at the side mocked her emptiness, each grain of rice a reminder of a union she did not choose. Martha stood tall beside their stepmother, her velvet gown gleaming under the morning sun. She fluttered a fake designer clutch bag in her hand, her lips curled in victory. Stella, in her sequined purple lace, clutched her feathered fan like a royal scepter, her voice loud as she barked instructions at guests. Sit here, sit there. Make room for the trader's family. Her laughter rose above the crowd, sharp and triumphant. Chief Okoro entered in his brown agbada embroidered with gold, a red cap on his head, coral beads around his wrist. His walking cane struck the ground with a rhythm of authority as he barked to the men arranging chairs. Let this ceremony be swift. A daughter who mocks my name will learn discipline under her husband's roof. His voice carried, and whispers rippled through the crowd. Angela's eyes dropped to the ground. Her breath quivered, but within her heart she clung to the memory of David's words, "A good heart is worth more than money." Then, suddenly, a rumble. Engines. The compound shook as the sound of multiple SUVs rolled into the narrow street. Black, gleaming machines roared together, dust clouds rising behind their tinted windows. Children screamed and scattered. Women clutched their jewel as the wind whipped their wrappers. Horns blared in unison, a royal procession, a spectacle Jebu had not seen in years. The canopy rattled. Chairs scraped against the ground. Heads turned as the SUVs ground to a halt at the compound gate. The dust thickened, turning sunlight into a smoky haze. From the first SUV, guards stepped out in matching black suits, their sunglasses glinting. Their polished shoes struck the earth in sharp rhythm, a beat of power. One pulled open the rear door, and from the cloud of dust, David Okoye rose. He no longer wore rags. No cracked sandals, no dirt-streaked face. Instead, a crisp navy-tailored suit clung to his tall, muscular frame. A white dress shirt gleamed beneath, his black leather belt catching the light. On his wrist, a luxury watch flashed gold as though the sun itself bowed to it. His beard was neat, his hair trimmed, his eyes sharp, no longer the shoemaker bowed in dust, but the man who owned half the hotels in Jebu. Gasps erupted. "That's David Okoye," a voice cried. "The billionaire," another shouted. "He was the shoemaker." The compound erupted into chaos. Gossiping women dropped their raffia baskets, food spilling into the dirt. Men who had mocked him stumbled back, shame burning their tongues. Stella froze, her fan falling useless to her side. Martha's clutch bag slipped from her hand, landing in the dust. Chief Okoro's cane trembled in his grip. Angela looked up slowly, her lips parting. Her heart pounded, her vision blurred with tears, not of shame this time, but of awe and disbelief. David's voice cut through the noise, clear and commanding. "My name is David Okoye. I am not a shoemaker. I am a man who was searching for true love, and I found it." The crowd stilled. His words fell heavy, every syllable a hammer striking the foundation of lies built around Angela. Stella collapsed to her knees, clawing at the earth. "Forgive us, Great One. We did not know." Martha rushed forward, her voice trembling. "David, forgive me. Choose me instead. I will honor you as you deserve." Her arms stretched desperately, but he turned from her as one turns from dust on a shoe. Angela's father staggered, pride collapsing. His voice roared, brittle with desperation. "No. She cannot marry you. Tradition forbids it. The first daughter must marry before the second. Angela cannot wed until Martha does." The crowd murmured, torn between shock and fear. Stella and Martha's faces lit with a faint hope, clinging to custom like a drowning man clings to driftwood. But David's eyes darkened, his fists clenched. He took a step forward, his guards behind him like a wall. I will not bow to pride disguised as tradition. I love Angela, and no decree of selfishness will tear us apart. The tension stretched like a rope about to snap. The crowd held its breath. Then another sound pierced the silence, the blaring of a royal horn. All eyes turned as a regal convoy approached. A white SUV, its roof adorned with a royal emblem, rolled in. From it stepped Chief Adeyemi, the king of their community, robed in deep red agbada with golden embroidery. A tall beaded crown gleamed upon his head, a leopard-skin sash draped across his shoulder. In his hand, a golden staff caught the light. The compound dropped to its knees in unison. Even Chief Okoro bent low, his earlier pride dissolving into fear. Chief Adeyemi's voice carried like thunder. That custom you cling to was abolished. Every daughter has the right to love. No man shall twist culture into chains for his child. If you deny this marriage, Chief Okoro, you defy not only love but the throne itself. The ground seemed to shake with his words. The people gasped, stunned by the force of his declaration. Stella whimpered. Martha froze, her painted lips trembling. Chief Okoro's eyes darted wildly, but his voice cracked. I meant no dishonor, my king. He lowered his cane, his shoulders sagging. The king's gaze softened as he turned to Angela. Child, do you still choose him? Angela rose, tears glistening in her eyes. Her voice rang clear. I didn't love a shoemaker or a billionaire. I loved David. A roar of cheers erupted from the crowd. Women ululated, men clapped, children danced around the compound. The forced marriage was shattered in an instant. The lies, the betrayals, the pride, all burned away under the fire of truth. David extended his hand to Angela. You loved me when I had nothing. Now let me give you everything. And in that moment, the dust that once clung to him turned to gold in the eyes of Jebu. The air in Jebu shifted as if the whole city had turned a page. By evening, the dust of disgrace was swept away, replaced by the fragrance of blossoms and the echoes of song. The marketplace that once mocked now buzzed with excitement. The compound that once rejected now trembled with awe. For a man had risen from rags into revelation, and a woman's loyalty had rewritten destiny. At the central wedding venue, floral arches swayed in the warm breeze, their petals trembling like the voices of the choir singing nearby. Ululations pierced the air, blending with drums that pounded deep into the heart. Trays of coral beads shimmered as bridesmaids prepared them with care. Villagers in Agbada and Jeel flooded the grounds, every fold of cloth a statement of celebration. Angela stood at the threshold, her slim, graceful frame clothed in a flowing white wedding gown. Unlike the pale borrowed lace from her forced betrothal, this gown glowed, soft beaded details catching the light, a veil cascading over her braids now wrapped elegantly in a white scarf. On her wrists gleamed matching bangles, her step steady in simple white sandals. But it was not the gown that captured hearts, it was her face radiant with peace. Across the aisle stood David Okoye. Gone was the shoemaker's ragged shirt, gone the cracked sandals. In their place, he wore a flowing white agbada embroidered with gold patterns, a staff of honor in his hand, coral beads across his chest. His tall frame seemed to carry not only wealth but a testimony that love could be forged in dust yet shine brighter than diamonds. At his side, the gleam of a Rolls-Royce Phantom parked in the background reminded all of the wealth he had hidden, but it was the shoemaker's hammer, placed on the altar as a symbolic prop, that drew murmurs from the crowd. The ceremony began. The choir's harmonies rose, mingling with the fragrance of incense. Villagers clapped as the couple exchanged vows, their voices trembling yet strong. I take you, David said, his eyes fixed on hers, not because you stood by a shoemaker or because you will stand beside a billionaire. I take you because you loved me when the world spat on me, and you loved me still. Angela's eyes glistened. I take you because you taught me that dignity does not live in wealth or rags, but in the heart that beats with kindness. I loved you before I knew your name, and I will love you long after it fades. The king himself, Chief Adeyemi, raised his golden staff, his voice commanding yet warm. Let it be known across Jebu, love that is true conquers lies, pride, and tradition twisted by greed. This marriage is blessed not only by the throne but by destiny itself. The crowd erupted in cheers. Women ululated, men clapped their hands, and children danced barefoot on the dust. Rolls of suya smoked in the air, jollof rice overflowed from silver trays, and palm wine poured freely into calabashes. In one corner, Stella and Martha shrank into silence. Their sequins and velvet could not hide the cracks in their pride. Neighbors who once sided with them now whispered scorn. Even Chief Okoro stood apart, his cane lowered, his agbada dulled by humility. He lifted his eyes once, meeting Angela's gaze, but shame weighed them down. The people had seen his pride crumble, and the throne had sealed his defeat. David reached for Angela's hand. Together, they lifted the shoemaker's hammer from the altar and set it beside the staff of honor, a symbol of the dust from which they had risen and the dignity that now crowned them. As the drums quickened, David leaned close to Angela. "You chose me in poverty. Now, let me give you everything." She smiled, tears glistening like jewels. "All I ever wanted was you." And so the wedding became more than a union. It became a lesson carved into the heart of Jebu. The music softened as twilight spread over the venue. The Rolls-Royce Phantom gleamed under lantern light, its polished surface catching the last gold of the setting sun. The villagers danced, laughter spilling into the night, but at the center of it all stood Angela and David, the woman who had chosen love in mockery and the man who had hidden riches to find it. Where once there was humiliation at a dusty roadside, now there was triumph under floral arches. Where once a broken slipper symbolized disgrace, now coral beads and wedding cloth declared honor. The shoemaker's hammer, once a mark of ridicule, had become a symbol of dignity, carried into a future of strength. The moral of their journey was clear. True love shines brighter than wealth. A loyal heart is worth more than gold. And destiny cannot be stopped by lies or pride. And so the tale of the billionaire shoemaker ended not in shame but in glory, a story passed from lips to lips, a lesson etched in the soul of a people who would never forget. What about you? Would you still choose love if the world mocked you for it? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. A brand new tale is coming soon, one filled with twists, heartbreak, and redemption you will never forget. Until then, thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next story.